Hi, marketers. This is Dots, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is Sara Taher, SEO manager at Assembly Global and a renowned SEO specialist loved all over the world. We will discuss e-commerce SEO strategies that drive immediate product revenue. Yes, the word is immediate. I know you guys are ready, so let's get it. Sarah, welcome. How are you doing?
All good. I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's, many people like me have watched you from afar, and it's really an honor having you here on this podcast.
I'm super
Uh,
grateful. Thank you.
absolutely. Do you want to please, start off by telling us about yourself, your background, your role, and how it's
Yeah,
going right now?
sure. So I started doing SEO in 2014. I launched an online magazine and I was managing a team of editors and we were creating awesome content. And I was like, in the beginning, all of our traffic was coming from social and it was great. But I was like, okay, what
Mm,
else is out there, right? So I started
mm,
to learn where else I can drive traffic, and this is where I stumbled on SEO and a lot of boot camps, courses, and so on.
mm,
And then I moved to Dubai. I was in Egypt. Then I moved to Dubai. I launched a tech startup. I did everything, like literally everything except for writing the actual code.
mm,
Did SEO, all marketing, I wore so many hats there. And then um, I in 2018 I took on a full-time role as an SEO specialist in Sira, which is the biggest travel agency in the Middle East. Was pretty
mhm,
cool role. Um, and then I moved to Canada. I freelanced. I worked agency side, then
mhm,
then moved to another agency, moved in house, and then back to to agency where I am today, Assembly,
mm. Yeah.
where I work as an SEO manager, where I create strategies from scratch and execute on them as well, like tech audits, content audits, and so on. I also started launching my personal brand in 2021.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and it's been like a wild journey. I've written a lot of SEO content. I've been on few podcasts and webinars so far, and yeah, it's been a crazy ride. I've worked uh, for different businesses in different industries like finance, e-commerce, which we're going to be talking about today. SaaS has been more common recently. So yeah, it's a crazy ride.
I know. And honestly, if I would latch on that crazy ride, what have been your biggest lessons, as a marketing entrepreneur? Of course, we know entrepreneurship these days, or being a business person, is not just about owning your business, but running an entire business unit within an organization. So overall, what have been your biggest lessons so far, and what are aspiring marketers listening learn from that?
So my biggest lesson overall, marketing
Mm.
and entrepreneurship and everything, stay hungry, stay foolish. Okay,
Mm.
it's
Steve
Steve Jobs.
Jobs. Okay.
Yeah, my love that man. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense all the time to always have this, energy and wanting more to learn more and try things, and so that. And then another thing that I learned, I think the hard way, is
Mm.
know your limits and don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong, in terms of don't, like, you're an SEO, for example, or you're especially when you're a business owner, hire smart people and then let them do their thing. Don't
Mm.
tell people how to do their thing because you're not specialist in all areas. So same when you're an SEO, you're working with different stakeholders. Know your limit, know you're doing SEO, but you need to trust that they will do their part and they'll come through. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's very important. I was thinking about it this morning, that you might be enjoying the ride, and I think that's a good thing, whatever ride it is you are enjoying or going through. But it's important to know your limits and try to make sure nothing cracks open in front of your face. So that is a great advice. And I did something this morning that sort of is sort of a reflection to that. And just even from a skill set perspective, focus on what you are good at, focus on the marketing channel that you are good at and can provide exceptional value. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
To the topic now, e-commerce SEO. And when I was, starting this, I spoke about how it drives immediate product revenue. And, Sarah, the reason why I like that is because SEO is always seen like a savings account. Savings account, 5% interest. You take a year to get something meaningful in terms of a return. So it takes a lot of time. At least that's what HubSpot says. But I guess what I realized in preparing for this was that e-commerce gives better results in terms of speed. Is that something you will agree with in saying, e-commerce SEO is much better from an expectation perspective, or not too fast?
Okay, that's I can say it depends, and it actually depends. So it depends on the product. Like if you're selling running shoes, or that's like a very competitive market, versus, for example, selling something very niche, that has very specific audience, like salt water minerals stuff, that some people are
SaaS
into.
products even.
Yeah. And then one thing I find really useful in e-commerce that can get a bit faster results than average is going after long tail keywords for bottom of funnel pages, like category pages. That actually surprisingly is, even in competitive markets, it can be faster than just going after the main category. And funny enough, if you go after those low search volume, long tail keywords, they all collectively help you at the end of the day to improve the performance of your main category, right? So I would say yes and no. Diplomatic answer.
Yeah, that's okay. I've had people who says, Dots, you are wrong on this podcast. So it's which is always what our listeners loves to hear. That makes sense. So if you're listening, it depends, right? And it's important to know that, because leadership are always looking for something quick, and then you can easily manage their expectation. Stakeholder lobbying is another episode for another day.
I feel SEOs get a lot of pressure from leadership to get immediate results. And sometimes it can be done, and we, go after these things, but then sometimes there's no work around doing the work and waiting.
Yeah. I feel that every day. If you are in enterprise, for example, you also feel that, as well. Now, I want to ask a question that borders on strategy, because I love strategy a lot. When conducting, strategic SEO research, with regards to e-commerce, do you have like a playbook or a system on how you do it? And the kind of answer I'm looking for is one that pertains with keyword research, not just based on intent and all the hierarchy and branch tree and all that. No, buyer journey type of SEO research that is e-commerce related. Do you have like a playbook for that our listeners can follow?
Yeah, I mean, but the user intent is great, but I honestly rarely use it. I just use the buyer
Good.
journey because it makes sense for
Okay.
me as an SEO, for business, for like all stakeholders. Collectively, we can agree on it, right? And the value it can brings. And in e-commerce, you're focused on conversions at the end of the day. So you're focused on bottom of funnel, middle of funnel content. And what happens is that I start with a content audit, see how many pages we have as products, and for each category, how many products, how many categories, and then middle funnel, like comparisons, listicles. It depends on like what I'm talking about. Top of funnel, like just analyze at a high level. And then I plan my SEO strategy for e-commerce specifically by starting with bottom of funnel, right?
Okay.
You either update or create the existing pages, right? And if you have on assumption that you have a capacity of update or create 10 pages every month, this is
Mm,
your budget, your content budget, then I divide it on the different funnel stages, right? Maybe month one, I would dedicate most of it to bottom of funnel pages,
mm,
because there's no point in creating top of funnel when, like, if you want people to start the funnel and your pages are not as good, right?
mhm,
And when I say good, it doesn't just mean from an SEO standpoint, from
mhm,
also user experience standpoint
mhm,
and conversion rate. If there's anything that can be fixed or optimized there, like
mhm,
sometimes I recommend to clients to embed videos on product pages, for example. Like some
mhm,
clients actually have a YouTube channel with like a product overview and stuff. Okay, why not embed that on the product page as well?
mm,
So and then month two, like as you start to and I also like to prioritize obviously product category pages, because these are more valuable. Instead of going after one product, I would go after
mhm.
one product or a few set of products based off their profitability. Like I sometimes send
Okay.
to our clients, like, okay guys, what are the most profitable products for you on that website? And then they come up with a list.
Not necessarily top selling products.
So the most profitable. So sometimes
Okay,
they have
good.
this one very expensive product,
Mm,
and maybe it's not getting a lot of traffic, but maybe if we optimize it, it can get more traffic. And
mm,
so profitability is what the again, you need to have define it in terms of business, right? Because that's what
mm,
you're going to
mm.
optimize for. Okay, what are we
Yeah,
trying to sell more of?
yeah.
So either very expensive, it can be most popular. Maybe if we optimize it, it can bring more conversions.
Mm,
And I also still try to look to products that have traffic potential and optimize them as well, because I mean
mm,
it's a low hanging fruit.
mm,
So
mm,
I focus on bottom of funnel category pages first, then mix between middle and some product pages, and start to introduce top of funnel. And the amounts are based off the content budget we have.
mm. Interesting. I mean, I expected a bit of your answer, but what I didn't expect is how you broke down the resource allocation management. I think that's very nice. And also formatting. So if you're listening, think of formats that can help a customer at that stage of the buying journey. And there is an SEO approach for that. Okay, maybe the keyword is not format, maybe it's approach, because format is like video, audio, or approach in terms of listicles or guides or resource pages or stuff like that. So the having considering that in your planning is also very important. And then just do your low hanging fruit, focus on the product which is at the very end. We have a lot of product page bounce rates, or if they there's no more bounce rates these days, but product rate product page abandon rates these days, and optimizing that would always help you in moving that sale forward. Okay, speaking of structure, Sarah, I know you have experience with Entity SEO. That was how I got to know you in the first place, and started to follow your work. So my question is, from a brand building perspective, do you think things like Entity SEO or structured SEO data? Do you think those would also play a huge role in driving e-commerce revenue, even for small businesses?
So entity SEO is, how I see it, is not, it's not an add-on, it's a requirement, right?
Okay.
And the reason for that is Google evaluates your page. So Google moved from keywords and strings to things, right? Understanding that this is a thing.
Mm,
And a thing like, say, like evening dress, okay, versus just
mm,
stuffing a page as evening. In the past, the most a page on evening dress, Google would think this is the best page based off things like how much the keyword is mentioned there, and keyword. So, and people use keyword stuffing, right? So
mm,
the more
mm,
you stuff your keywords, then that's perfect. Now it's not about stuffing, not how many times evening dress is in the page. It's how much this page is relevant to or covers the topic and of evening dress. So when you have a page that is about selling evening dresses, Google expect that's the main entity. Google expects thing a lot of things related to that entity to be listed there. For example, sizes, colors, things like elegance, and like specific words and nouns that should be mentioned there, right? It's think about it. Can I, if I want to write a blog post about you, right?
Mhm,
Can
mhm.
I write a blog post about you
Dots,
without?
connecting the dots, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you're the main entity. Dots is the main entity of that page.
Yeah.
Would you say that is a good blog post if I wrote about it, never mentioned, for example, that you have a podcast, never mentioned, your job title, or any of your would you think that is a good blog post about you? Obviously not. It's missing.
Not because it's missing a lot of context about
Yes,
dots.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's things that I cannot talk about dots without mentioning it. Like it doesn't make
Mhm,
this is not comprehensive, and that's the same way
mhm,
Google looks at pages, be it product pages or blog pages or any type of content, right? So
mhm.
entities are a requirement. Small business, big business. It's a way of thinking, and um, I think it's just a shift in mindset of SEOs, right? Like we still need to do
Yeah.
keyword research, but
Yeah.
saying add the main keyword evening dresses for evening, and those sort of variations is not enough. Now you need to figure out, okay, what else does evening dresses relate to, or things that should be essentially on the page when I talk about evening dresses, right?
Mm, mm. Interesting. Interesting. So if you're listening, entity SEO is important. That's, going into the details beyond the scope of this episode, but businesses of all sizes need entity SEO, not just from a brand perspective, but from a category perspective. If I sort of understand what Sarah is mentioning there. At the end of this episode, I want you guys to follow Sarah, and she will be sharing some details on where she, builds thought leadership, through which entity SEO is a very big part of that. Okay, at the beginning, Sarah, you had spoken about experience, not just about the content or keywords. It's about the experience. Um, there is a question that I have not been very clear about. I've had a lot of experience with e-commerce, mostly on Shopify, a bit of WooCommerce, and some other platforms as well. And some of the things I noticed is that with some of these e-commerce engines, they often have some premium plans that you need to get to access some nice UX features or nice SEO features, even like, for example, Shopify Plus. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. My question is just, is investing in a more expensive e-commerce feature better for a brand's digital maturity? And by digital maturity here, I mean, what are the technological house cleaning for marketing that needs to be done for you to be ready to go to market? So do you think investing in those features is great for UX, is great for SEO in general on the e-commerce side, or we should just work with what we have?
So Shopify Plus is an enterprise solution, right?
Mm,
And even the pricing is, I checked it this morning. It's like custom, or I think it depends on, like, you need to reach out. My
mm,
understanding, right?
mm, mm,
Um, I think, like, I've worked on a lot of websites, Shopify, normal, normal clients, normal users,
mm,
and they were working fine. And I'm not like saying you don't need Shopify. Definitely, there. I've never used it, right? But there, and being an enterprise tool, there's definitely more features. But
mm,
I would say that it probably would be more useful for enterprise level. Like if you're a small business, you can still perform and rank well without using enterprise tools, whatever they
okay.
provide, right? I mean, even conversions and I mean, there's an SEO, and because I've seen that in a lot of small
Mm,
businesses,
mm,
and then there's also a lot of plugins, a lot of potential customizations you can do.
yeah.
So I wouldn't say they're a necessity. I'm assuming they have features that are more tailored to large big brand clients.
Interesting. Yeah, and maybe some mid-size in some cases as well. They have a $1,200 per month plan that I know a poncho company used long ago. But you're right. I think ultimately you have to work out the economics of everything
I
to
mean,
be able to see.
it's like using Analytics 360. I think it was right. I worked on a company before they used it. Okay, I don't remember how much it was, but it was like 10K a month or
I think
something,
yeah, I think it's 10K a
right?
month.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I have never used it before.
I mean, yeah, they used it, and that's fine. But I worked on tons and tons of. I even don't remember the difference, honestly. I
Mm,
worked on
mm,
tons and tons of normal analytics accounts, and
mm.
it was just fine. So you can
Wow. Yeah.
always, I mean, you can always, obviously, if you have more budget, like if you're a huge client, you
Mm,
want access to the best. But
mm,
most
mhm.
businesses are not at that stage, so
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
you can still do a lot without having access to very expensive premium products. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. We are still scratching the surface and I'm enjoying this already. Okay. I will not be distracted. So my next question is a bit on the strategic side in terms of the marketing mix, the channels, or in some cases I call the vertical slash marketing initiatives. Are there other supporting channels aside from SEO that you think help drive e-commerce sales? I mean, aside from having a good UX or a good experience, are there other channels that you think, if they work well, then organic sales would also be enhanced?
Yeah. So I mean, the we talked about the buyer journey, and right now
Mm,
it's so like it doesn't start and finish on Google anymore, right?
yeah, yeah,
Maybe it would finish on Google because maybe you'd see a product on TikTok and then you go search for it on Google. So that's good, right?
yeah.
So if I would work in house, I would collaborate with social media. On like that, definitely social media is very important.
Mm,
The work they do, they bring branded traffic, right? So that's
mhm,
important to capture. And sometimes you actually need SEO optimization to capture it. Because people
mm,
think, oh, it's branded search, you rank for it automatically. Sometimes you don't.
yeah.
And then another channel I like to work with, PPC. These people are a gold mine for SEO in so many ways. So, for example, um, one time I worked with a PPC manager. We ran experiments. What if she switched? Because a lot of the PPC work are just ads on branded keywords, right?
Mm, mm,
Um, People searching for your brand, and you're ranking there, but they're also running PPC ads. So we said, okay, what if we switch off the ads and see if organic can pick it, right?
mm,
And it picked it in some situations, most of the time, most of the clicks, but they're like small difference. But then in my test, the one I ran, so
mm,
the thing is, you can collaborate with the PPC manager, um, and then you can also get inside. I was just actually met with a client today, and we were talking, and I told them, okay, we need data and insights from PPC manager to see what's the most profitable keywords and obviously the landing pages they created. Because when I looked at GA4, we noticed that the traffic, or organic traffic, and PPC traffic are almost the same, but the conversions for
mm.
PPC is much higher.
Oh,
So
okay.
so the thing is, okay, if we fix the conversion rate on organic, you're basically like, I mean, you brought the people in the website, so
Mm,
don't waste that. We want to fix this leak. So okay, how about we see how PPC people are doing, and what landing pages, maybe we can get insights from their landing pages, what terms that are most profitable, and we can see why is this happening, why we're not getting the same so fixing conversion rate as well. So I mean, working with people from other channels is definitely very important. In the past, an SEO was just an island, like you that guy
yeah.
sitting in the corner who no one knows what you're doing and no one appreciates it. uh, but then that's not the case anymore, and you can't act this way anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I like I mean, just to write on what you said there, even from a keyword research perspective, you can borrow from each ecosystem. So many times I've taken keywords from Google Search Console and used them in ads, not trying to depend on all the other keywords out there. And, maybe getting some nice keywords from paid and using them in organic. And, just to your point, any other channel, be it social, email, or whatever, where search is really the focus. For example, YouTube is the world's second biggest search engine. And the TikTok you mentioned is fast becoming a search engine itself. And due to that, there's also a way to use them to support the overall, SEO or website traffic, which I think is what you were trying to say there. That is at the end of the day, it's a traffic on the website. So, and thanks for sharing some of those your nice examples as well.
So also Google launched the perspective filter, right? And perspectives is just social media and videos. So again, you need to work very well with social media people. The strategies should be connected, right? So yeah, that's
Can you
just.
tell us more about that perspective filter? What does that mean? What is that?
So when you search on Google, there's a new filter at the top. It's called perspective. And when you go there, it's just results from Quora, Reddit, and then TikTok videos, YouTube shorts. So all of these things are coming from social channels. It's basically like Google showing you the discussions and the things going on social media, like what are people saying about the topic, right? So as an SEO, as a pure SEO, you don't have any control of this. But if you work with social media people, you may come up with strategies. Maybe if they're involved in, like, maybe they interact with people in the community, maybe they're the videos they're posting. We mentioned that earlier. The videos are becoming more and more important. So yeah, you definitely,
Interesting.
yeah.
Is it like we are looking for the word perspective as a filter, or the fact that you have dynamic filter? So, for example, whilst we're just doing this, I searched for dots, and in the filter there are some, I guess, perspectives or context like dots candy, game, treatment, Calgary. So, and with each search, you get a different set of filters. Is that what you mean by perspective filters, or there's a filter specifically called perspective?
Yeah, it's next to the image filter and news. Like at the top, there's a news. Yeah, it appears there. So yeah,
Oh, I see.
it's on
Interesting.
mobile
Interesting.
only. I'm sorry, it's on mobile only.
Oh, okay. I'm using my PC. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. If you're listening, check it out if you haven't already. Don't be surprised if I am a dinosaur, even though I'm running the podcast. That happens all the time. Okay, so now back to my difficult question. When it comes to SEO, or even just marketing attribution in general, there is a side where you get this result, but you don't know where. It could be as a result of people not wanting to be tracked from a privacy perspective. But what we are focusing on here from this question is what I term the dark marketing channel. So people talk about the product on some websites. They mention the product, but they don't link to the product. On social media, this happens a lot where people talk about the product. There's no link to the product. People have to search directly for that product, or something like that. So how do you, I guess, capture that data and utilize that for our SEO efforts? How do we, even if it's just from an attribution perspective, is there a way to work with that? Are there tools or ideas or tactics that we can use to leverage that channel, or even get insights on those kinds of activities?
I mean, in SEO, we're lucky that we have a bit of attribution. A bit. I wouldn't say it's like 100% accurate, but a bit of attribution. Uh, Other channels like demand gen, for example, struggle that maybe more. So in SEO, I think the biggest thing with attribution is the brand mentions. And
Okay.
historically, SEOs and SEO were always excluded from getting any any thank yous from branded search traffic. Like if you say, okay, we got 100K or 1K or whatever branded searches this month, clicks from branded searches this month, they would actually take that away, and that's okay. That's not SEO results. And that's, I think, you need to understand the channel very well. Like when you work on a new business, you need to understand the channel very well and look at a conversion path and look at how the channels work together. So for example, I was working in-house, and one of the first things I noticed is that there's tons of direct traffic, and direct traffic is sometimes just unattributed traffic. It's not like necessarily everyone type. Like people don't wake up one day and get like think of your website and without hearing about it from somewhere else. Like should be some, right, but it's all credited to direct traffic. So I started isolating data, and I noticed that direct traffic and organic traffic are literally the same curve. Exactly. Ups, downs, like exactly. And
correlation.
yes, right. It's very strong. Like times that are down, seasonality or whatever, it goes down. So from there, you can say SEO is super. Like I would, if I'm trying just to be fair and accurate, so I wouldn't attribute 100% of the direct traffic to SEO, but it's definitely a big
Of
chunk
course.
of it. So, I mean, you need to understand your website. You need to understand the data and try things, right? And for example, in that business, the PPC had very little budget, and therefore very little traffic. So, like adding things up, this is where you start to see, okay, apparently SEO is actually generating tons and tons of organic traffic, branded search traffic that was not attributed to SEO at all, right? So that's one way. And then when you look at attribution paths, right? Sometimes it's like, are we accounting for first touch or last touch, right? Because sometimes the conversion is attributed to the channel where the user like if the user comes to the website through organic, then paid, then social, and then converges at the last one is just attributed to the social, while it can actually, like, the who brought that user first, it's SEO. So we need also to report on those things. You need to like dig deeper. It sometimes it's really hard to be 100%. It's never going to be 100% in my opinion. Like we
Of
don't have,
course. Of course.
there's no single source of data I can think of right now, like in terms of like SEO third-party tools, even Search Console. If you're not using API, you will not get access to the full data. And I sometimes I wonder if Google is actually giving us, even with the API, the full exact data. Um, right? So
Who said that? I think it was Rand Fishkin. He's been posting of recent, asking people what they think about that.
yeah, I highly doubt, like Google is not like the only data you can think of, like if you're maybe Google Analytics, it depends. It depends again. So
I mean,
there's,
there is some sort of data sampling going on, and I think they have that on their platform.
yeah,
So
but unless you're tracking, like the best metric you can track is conversions of money. I think the bank account will not give you estimates, right? So yeah, these type of measurements maybe, yeah, but um, to the extent I've been involved, there's in measuring, there's always some ambiguity, right? And you just
yeah,
need to work around it. And the problem with ambiguity is just showing value, and that's where you need to invest some effort to find ways to show value.
interesting. If you're listening, you're probably enjoying this as much as I am. But please don't go away. We will be going on a very quick commercial break, and afterwards, it will be testing Sarah when it comes to the performance rapid fire. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. It's me here, Dots, and I'm speaking to Sara Taher. It's been an amazing conversation on e-commerce SEO strategies. But before then, let's have a little fun, okay? I'm going to ask you 3 questions, Sarah, and I want you to give me answers that are true and nothing but the truth. So help you God. So the first one is, what is your best marketing KPI? And I don't want to hear sales.
Okay, it's really weird and it's personal. I would say execution, finding a way to measure how fast we execute and close the circle, like execute, see if it works or not, update and execute back that circle. Finding a way to
Interesting.
measure that. Yeah.
From a project management perspective. Okay, that's
Yeah, from an
that's
yeah
go ahead.
from the perspective of an SEO who suffers to get things done, I would like to measure that.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important, and I wasn't expecting that answer, but now that I think about it, at the end of the day, it's just about showing up, and that should be tracked at the end of the day. So,
I think I got that from my startup days, like move fast and break things, and delivery takes the cake. It doesn't matter what you know or what's going on. If you don't deliver something, it doesn't exist. So
interesting. Second question: how do you use social media every day? I follow you on LinkedIn, so if you are lying, I will know.
this is very embarrassing, but I would say like at least 2 hours, at least
At
like
least,
maybe
yeah,
3 hours. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
I
very
I spend about an hour and a half.
yeah
But I also watch a lot of YouTube. Like
in
that's
an
like
hour and a half.
no, I YouTube is like always on for me. Like I walk and I listen to stuff or documentaries or stuff like that or audiobooks. I'm being a fan of audiobooks of late. Reading like one book every 2 weeks or something like that. Hearing actually, listening to one book every 2 weeks. But in terms of like scrolling and checking stuff, yeah, from a thought leadership perspective, you have to spend at least an hour plus a day, you know, providing value to the community. So it's not your fault. It's okay.
I mean, I tried to cut it down a few times, but then it doesn't work. And it's mainly on my phone. Like 99% of this on my phone. So yeah.
Interesting. The last one is, what is your favorite marketing quote? You've given like 2 million quotes in this episode already. So let's see your best one.
Okay, there's one attributed to Steve Jobs, "Sell dreams, not products." And then there's another one by Amy Cuddy. She has the most seen TED Talk of all time. I think for a long time. I'm not sure if she's still that position, but it says, "We convinced by our presence." She actually wrote a book, and that was in the book, and it stuck with me. Like, yeah, those two things.
Convinced by our presence. I like that. Okay. Back to the episode here. Before I let you go, I want to explore a few, I guess, advanced ideas, just to make sure that our strategy for e-commerce SEO is very sustainable. We don't want it one-off. We want it to keep going and delivering as much commercial value. So, what I notice, and I may be wrong in this, I don't have any data on my hands right now, but based on my own experience, many of the tens of e-commerce stores I've worked with don't have a blog or some kind of media platform. By media platform, I mean like a content media platform, for some goal or objective. And I feel anyone listening here might be triggered to start thinking about that, thanks to you being here. So my question is, have you seen some brands who do this really well, that have some level of supporting content system or media system to drive and support their e-commerce SEO strategies or efforts, if I'll put it
I
that way?
want to thank you for bringing this up. I cannot say how grateful I am because you hit the nail on the head. Like e-commerce people, they get in their own way,
They
right?
just
And
want to sell.
they get it. This is not on brand. Why should we create, guides and that and this and that? Guys, this is how SEO works. This is how this channel works. This is not social media. The brand that comes to mind is ASOS. They have a blog, and I also remember I'm not sure if you're familiar with the story. The ASOS girl, she bought a dress from ASOS, posted it somewhere, got a mean comment like the dress, you look so bad in that dress, or it's
Yeah,
so
maybe. Yeah.
yeah. And then so ASOS took a photo of that dress with her in that dress and put it on the product page. So definitely ASOS is acing the content game in obviously in few ways, like having a blog and jumping on trending topics. I have a story to share. So, do
Please.
you remember? Yeah, it's really fun. You remember there was a documentary on Netflix called Tinder Swindler, the guy
Yes.
that robbed. Yeah,
I am addicted to documentaries. So
yeah,
yeah.
right. So he always wore fancy clothes and expensive stuff. So I had an e-commerce client. I jumped and said, and they were fashion and they were high-end fashion. I was like, guys, we need to leverage this. Let's write a blog about Tinder Swindler closet, and maybe even or something about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can tell you how much time, and you need to jump on that trend because SEO for trending topics, you can rank quickly, you can get like a huge, you're putting yourself in front of a huge audience, and people looking for his closet. These are fancy people. How about like it's your chance. You have a slow process and you're pushing and pushing, and then when they finally created the blog, I was like, push it, please push it, it's time you push it. What happened is that they said, okay, we're not pushing it, it's not on brand. So I was like, okay, so
We should have known that from the beginning, right? Instead of us going back to the drawing board.
it should not happen. They should understand that SEO is a different channel. You need to leverage.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to be a bit creative. Get out. They're getting in their own way. This is a blog they could have kept for like 2 months and then removed it. What and and the problem is, and if you remember, I told you in the beginning, is as in business owner perspective, hire smart people and then let them do what they do.
Do their
The
thing. Yeah.
the person that put their foot down is the business owner, and then who knows branding? It's the marketing people, or that you're the. It's so sometimes just people get in their own way. Like this could have been like something really
Yeah.
big, something really cool. I kept pushing. It was super slow. We finished it. Let's push it, and then they said, no.
Yeah, that happens. I've had to work with enterprises. I will not mention names, but I
Man,
still
it's what happens, like because you want to do something cool and something creative, and want to like.
And sometimes those ideas are very niche because now today everybody is jumping on the Barbie bandwagon, and the problem with that is that it's already too popular. It's not as niche as people would think it
It's not
is.
as crazy, right? It's
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
doing it, so let's do it, right? Let's do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
We all
yeah.
so it's not. That's where that's the thing. Like are like the one of the things that you will hear a lot are our competitors doing it, guys. If your competitors do it,
Exactly.
you're
Ah,
late already. You're late,
yeah,
right?
you're late by 6 months,
Right?
says
You need
Chris Walker.
and then if you're only doing what they're doing, you're always following them. You need to lead. You need to do your own thing,
Yeah,
right? And that's why
yeah.
you hire people. Like you hire people to give you creative ideas. If you're gonna just copy your competitor, okay, get a copywriter. You don't need an SEO, and just tell them create the same blogs that write about the same things, and just call it a day. Like, why do you
Mm,
need it, right?
mm, mm,
Most and unfortunately most businesses and brands are get in their own way. Yeah.
mm. Digital transformation is important. That's a topic I continue to talk about with many guests. We're talking off mic, Sarah, that there's also a shift in leadership where you have leaders that are younger, but have a better mix of pragmatism and creativity, and are more social in the way they communicate. So um, I'm not speaking for myself, but I'm speaking for myself and you in saying that that's a good thing. And I think in the next 5 years, we'll have those sets of people taking over and driving businesses to a whole new positive direction. So while this is still a problem today, I don't see that being a problem 5 years from now.
I mean, if you look
Go
at
ahead.
any great product like Apple, because I love Steve Jobs, so we have to talk about Apple. If you look at Steve Jobs talking about, how he manages his team, or how any, you always notice that he hires people, and actually I think it's one of his quotes, like you hire smart people so they tell you what to do, not you tell them what, not the other way around, something around that. And there's a lot of debates and people disagreeing and pushing back strongly against him. Imagine sitting in front of Steve Jobs and telling him no, like imagine that. And he allowed this, right? And because he knows that this is actually, and it's funny, this is how A players act. A players are hard to deal with sometimes. And there's this thing I learned, that A players hire A players, B players hire C players, and that's where a lot of our problems come. Yeah.
Interesting. The last bit here that I want to ask you is about SEO automation. I had a chance to speak to a guest called Manik Pan. He was a very big agency out here in the Western Hemisphere, and we talked about that. But my concern is always, SEO automation, AI, ChatGPT, all this funny stuff that is coming up and distracting everybody all over the place. How best should we use them for SEO automation in e-commerce without just spoiling things or ruining our organic traffic? What do you think about that from your own experience?
I think SEO automation tools, or any process, or anything you build to automate your work, is great, unless you start to try to use them to manipulate the algorithm, or do some spammy work in any way, right? If you're
Black
trying
hat
to
SEO.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to create content faster, that's fine. But if you're trying to just dump tons of content on your website, that's not good, right? And so and that's like the main example when you talk about automation. The main thing that comes to mind is just the amount of content you can create. You have now superpowers to create tons, but then you need to make sure that just because you can create 10K page words today doesn't mean that you have this capability, doesn't mean you'll not follow the usual SEO processes of making sure you're doing quality work, right? So I think making sure you're focusing on quality whilst leveraging automation is the right balance.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh man, I could go on and on, Sarah. This has been really awesome. We are talking about SEO here, and it's like intriguing stuff. So I'm really, really, really pleased, happy, excited speaking to you, Sarah. I really enjoyed this conversation, your perspectives, and a lot of the honesty that I think a lot of people can learn from. Thank you so much for this. And I did promise at the beginning, and here goes. Where can our aspiring SEO gurus find you? If they need help learning about some of the next generation SEO marketing strategies.
I'm very noisy and loud on LinkedIn, so they can find me there easily. They can find me on my website as well, sara-taher.com. And I'm on Twitter as well. I'm all over the place.
By the way, Sarah has a well-optimized SEO LinkedIn page. I had to copy that for myself, so good work on that. All right, that's all we have for today. Like I said, I wish we can go on and on. I really enjoyed this, but we had to cap it for time. Please see more episodes at dotslovesmarketing.com, and don't forget to subscribe to the Marketing Leadership Podcast on Apple and Spotify. Till next episode, connect the dots.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. There will be links to any resources mentioned in today's show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.